All right, welcome back. We're talking about the Penguins, who had a nice little weekend. First time in a long time they haven't played a Saturday game in October. I think I heard Bob Grove say it's like 17 years. They're in a nice little resort town in the Canadian Rockies, getting set for a game against Edmonton on Tuesday night after they beat Toronto 1-0. I want to talk about this game specifically. Number one, I want to begin with the goaltending because Matt Murray seemed to be annoyed that he didn't start the last home game, Chris Mack, and he came out and played like, wait a minute, don't forget about me. He'd heard some criticism. He had a concussion, came back from it. So are you buying or selling Matt Murray the rest of the year, coming off a bad year by his standards last year?
Well, I'll buy it for now. I think it was great to see him play like that against Toronto. I think more impressive about the Toronto game were the guys in front of him. I mean, that was just good old-fashioned button-down hockey, and nobody, I think the key was everybody wanted to see more like a Pens-Caps game, right? We wanted to see 6-5, lots of offense, but this Penguins team at this point I think is just better when they button it up and play strong in front of their goaltender, whether it's Murray or DeSmith, and they played a good, solid 200-foot game to slow down, shut down Toronto the way they did the other night, to not take any penalties while doing it, other than the one Murray took. It felt like a playoff game to an extent. Good, solid hockey, and not as fun to watch or crazy to watch as a 7-6 game, but they played strong in front of them, and as long as they continue to do that, then Murray's got a chance to stand tall.
Yeah, you know what, that is the case, but also he made 38 saves, so he saw a lot of shots, and I thought at times positionally and the way he moved, when he had to shift positions, when Toronto did have the puck and some threats in the offensive zone, he looked like, you know, versus the Predators at home, Matt Murray, versus the Sharks, Matt Murray in the finals. It was good to see those flashbacks. Maybe it was partially because what Bob is saying, he was ticked off to begin with, but emotions usually don't come into play with Murray. He's such a flatline guy. So whatever the reason, I'm just glad he channeled it. Hopefully he is back at this point, and I think part of the reason what Chris is getting at here, that they have to play that way more often, they aren't that much faster than everybody else all the time anymore.
No.
Their guys are getting older. A lot of teams are younger and have emulated what they do. The Penguins can't be what they were at the start or in the middle of 2016 anymore, so they kind of have to play that way more often.
Exactly. Well, my first thought is wake me up in about February when we start really talking about hockey. I can't get all that excited about a game that happened in October. Matt Murray has great games. He has bad games. He's got 76 more of them to play. It was nice to see what they did. I think Toronto is a team that's still young and still learning how to win. They're going to go through ups and downs. So to me, if Matt Murray and the defense play like that and they play a game where they're, you know, a lot more accountable and all that stuff, yeah, they're going to be a team that's going to win a lot of games. But you know what? They could go out when they play Edmonton on Tuesday and give up 5 goals on it. It's October.
Well, the interesting part, Paul, I think, was that the Penguins looked like they didn't want to be awake until February through the first 5 games at times, and that's
against bad teams.
And we're going to see some of that too. I mean, this is a team that's so good and they've won so much. I can't imagine, you know, it's easy for them to play in October and November and get all that excited about every single game.
Well, that's why I think people trying to make this a passing of the torch moment might have gotten ahead of themselves. I don't think the Penguins are, especially with their stars, where Detroit was when the Penguins took the mantle from them back in 2009. I think a lot of people were trying to write that narrative in advance, and I don't think we had gotten to that point.
Because it is only October, I'm not worried about Sidney Crosby. I've seen him have scoring chances. He has no goals, though. This is the first time, I think, in his career, 6 games to start a season with no goals. Tim, are you concerned about that or not?
What I'm concerned about is why they don't just put Patrick Hornqvist on his line and stick with it.
Because he doesn't want it.
He should. It boggles my mind that he doesn't understand this. I know that Crosby wants guys on his line that always think and play the game the way that he does in terms of give and go, seeing how things develop off the rush. But if anybody should know this, with all the goals he's scored in his career, that most goals don't come that way, particularly anymore in the NHL. Get the guy who's good in front of the net, you get the puck to the net, he'll bang it in for a goal, or he'll whack it a couple times, then you can bang it in for a goal. And Sidney Crosby is the best great player ever from the goal line into the wall, and then back out again. He does that better than anybody. I think Hornqvist excels in that role too. They complement each other better than I think Crosby wants to admit, and I don't know why.
Well, I think more importantly, when we talk about the first line, Crosby's line, and combine it with the last thing we just spoke of, October hockey, a better question might be, why aren't we giving Daniel Sprong a little bit more of a longer look on that top line to see if he's really legit or not? And we have yet to see that. I mean, the kid's barely seeing the ice in the third period of games at this point. He's languishing down there on the fourth line. He has looked good in flashes when he's been given opportunities for some ice time early on this year. It is October. This is the opportunity to learn what you have in the few guys that you don't know that much about, because basically you've got the same team coming back this year that you had last year, for the most part the year before that. So as far as Crosby goes, he had 3 stretches of at least, I think, 7 or 8 games scoreless last year. I'm not worried about him, because when he does get on, he's going to be hot, and he's going to rip off probably 8, 9, 10 game scoring streak. That's what he does.
With all these line discussions, the one thing I said, I think I said this the other night with you, Bob, on a nightly sports call, Mike Sullivan has to be very, very careful that he doesn't over-manage, or whatever you want to say, and tinker too much with these lines, because, he's a guy that's not very patient. It's been the way he goes about things. When they lose, he gets upset. He, moves the pairings around and all that stuff. This is a team that in year 4 now of his message, he could run the risk of maybe his message becoming a little stale and maybe even losing a couple of these guys if he's not careful. So to me, I understand what you're saying about moving guys and giving them opportunities, but I would like to see him tinker a little less and just let these guys play for a while.
Not his MO, but I understand that as well. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, Pitt football. They had a bye week. Are they prepared to run the table? Can they? Will they? We'll talk about that next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.